A powerful, engineering-driven nation, once the envy of the world for its precision manufacturing and reliable energy, decides to rewrite the rules of electricity forever. They announce they'll phase out safe, zero-carbon nuclear power, replace it with massive wind farms and solar panels across the countryside, promise energy that's not just clean but also cheap and secure, and lead humanity toward a climate-neutral paradise, all while keeping their factories humming and exports booming. It sounded revolutionary. That nation? Germany. The bold experiment? Energiewende, the energy transition. It began gaining serious momentum in the 2000s with the EEG, Renewable Energy Sources Act, subsidies, but exploded after the 2011 Fukushima disaster when Chancellor Merkel accelerated the nuclear shutdown. The vision was clear: 100% renewables by mid-century, energy independence from fossil imports, especially Russian gas, drastic CO2 cuts, and a green economy that creates jobs and prosperity. Politicians called it the greatest modernization project since reunification. Now, in January 2026, the dream has collided with harsh reality. Germany has already poured hundreds of billions of euros into direct Energiewende measures, subsidies, grid expansions, redispatch to balance the intermittent power, curtailment payments when excess renewable energy is wasted, and massive infrastructure upgrades. The famous $500 billion figure, roughly 450 to 500 billion euros cumulative by the mid-2020s, reflects these historical costs. But look ahead. A major September 2025 study by Frontier Economics, commissioned by the German Chambers of Industry and Commerce, DIHK, warns that continuing the current path could rack up 4.8 to 5.4 trillion euros, about 5.6 to 6.4 trillion dollars, between 2025 and 2049 alone. Breakdown: up to 2.3 trillion for energy imports, as domestic renewables can't fully replace fossils yet, 1.2 trillion for grids, 1.1 to 1.5 trillion for new generation capacity, and around 500 billion just to operate plants. Germany is spending more per capita on decarbonizing its electricity than almost any other country, yet the system remains expensive, unreliable during calm, cloudy Dunkelflaut periods, and is fueling a dangerous industrial decline. Section 1. The impressive side, what Germany truly achieved, expanded with latest 2025 data. To be completely balanced and fair, let's celebrate the real successes first, because they are substantial and prove that large-scale renewables deployment is technically feasible. In 2025, renewables covered nearly 56% of Germany's gross electricity consumption. Preliminary figures from BDEW and ZSW confirmed in December 2025 reports. And about 55.9% of net public electricity generation, according to Fraunhofer ISE's final January 2026 analysis. This is a massive leap from just 6% in 2000. Wind power stayed the top dog, approximately 132 terawatt-hours generated overall. Onshore, approximately 106 terawatt-hours. Offshore, approximately 26.1 terawatt-hours, even though 2025 had weaker wind conditions, causing a 3.2% drop from 2024. New onshore capacity added approximately 4.5 gigawatts, offshore only approximately 0.29 gigawatts, still lagging behind ambitious targets. Planned 76.5 gigawatts onshore by end 2025, actual 68.1 gigawatts installed. Solar delivered the biggest surprise, approximately 87 terawatt-hours produced, up an impressive 21% from 2024, with 71 terawatt-hours fed into the public grid and 16.9 terawatt-hours self-consumed by owners. Photovoltaics overtook lignite, brown coal, for the first time. Installed PV capacity soared to 116.8 gigawatts by year-end, thanks to a record 16.2 gigawatts added, equivalent to approximately 14.3 gigawatts AC after conversion losses. On sunny, windy days, solar and wind now dominate the mix, proving Germany can scale renewables rapidly when weather cooperates. From 1990 baselines, the power sector has driven major GHG reductions, real climate progress that deserves credit. Visual suggestion. Imagine dynamic charts here showing renewable share climbing steadily from 2000 to 2025, wind and solar bars overtaking coal and lignite, and a map of massive PV installations across rooftops and fields. Section 2. The brutal reality. High sky prices and energy poverty. But here's where the trap truly bites. Despite all the investment, German electricity remains among the world's most expensive, especially painful for households and businesses. In the first half of 2025, household prices averaged 0.3835 euros per kilowatt hour, Eurostat, the highest in the EU. 34% above the EU average of 0.2872 euros per kilowatt hour. Belgium, 0.3571 euros, and Denmark, 0.3485 euros were close behind. An average household using 3,500 kilowatt hours per year paid approximately 115.6 euros per month, BDEW October 2025 analysis. Still well below pre-2022 crisis levels, around 0.328 euros per kilowatt hour in 2021. Taxes, grid fees, 27% of the bill, and levies, even after the EEG surcharge ended in 2022, keep costs elevated. Grid fees are set to drop sharply in 2026 thanks to a €6.5 billion federal subsidy, reducing average transmission fees from 6.65 cents per kilowatt hour to 2.86 cents per kilowatt hour, a 57% cut. But prices remain high overall. For energy-intensive industry, costs are 2 to 3 times higher in the US or China, directly threatening. Imagine a nation, a global powerhouse of engineering and innovation, deciding to reinvent its entire energy system. Shut down reliable nuclear plants, phase out coal, and bet the farm on wind and solar. Promise cheap, clean power for all, slash emissions, and lead the world to a green utopia. That's Germany's Energiewende, the energy transition. Launched in the 2000s and supercharged after Fukushima in 2011, it was hailed as visionary. But here we are in January 2026, and the reality? A staggering $500 billion disaster that's accelerating deindustrialization, inflating bills, missing climate targets, and forcing emergency bailouts just to keep factories from bolting. This isn't just a policy flop, it's a cautionary tale for the world. Buckle up as we dive deep into the facts, figures, and failures of Germany's green energy trap. We'll break it down section by section with the latest data from 2025 and projections into 2026 and beyond. Let's start at the beginning. The birth of Energiewende. Bold vision or ideological gamble? Germany's energy transition didn't start overnight. Roots trace back to the 1990s with the EEG, Renewable Energy Sources Act, in 2000, which introduced feed-in tariffs, guaranteed high prices for renewable producers subsidized by consumers. But the real acceleration came in 2011. After Japan's Fukushima disaster, Chancellor Angela Merkel, a physicist by training, reversed course on extending nuclear lifespans. She announced the Atomausstieg, all 17 nuclear reactors offline by 2022, later delayed to 2023 for the last 3. The goal? 80% renewables by 2030, 100% by 2035 to 2040, phase out coal by 2038, achieve energy independence, cut greenhouse gases 65% from 2030 from 1990 levels, and become a climate leader. Slogans like clean, affordable, reliable echoed everywhere. Environmental groups cheered. Industry lobbied for caution. Fast forward, the last nuclear plants shut in April 2023, and coal lingers on. What's the scorecard? Let's look at the wins first, because there are some, before the trap reveals itself. The impressive achievements. Renewables boom, but at what cost? Let's give credit where it's due. Germany has scaled renewables like few others. In 2025, renewables covered nearly 56% of gross electricity consumption, preliminary BDEW and ZSW figures, or precisely 55.9% of net public electricity generation, according to Fraunhofer ISE's January 2026 analysis. That's up from just 6% in 2000, a massive leap. Wind remained the heavyweight, about 132 terawatt-hours generated, onshore around 106 terawatt-hours, offshore around 26 terawatt-hours, despite weaker winds causing a 3.2% drop from 2024. New onshore additions hit nearly 4.5 gigawatts, but offshore lagged at 0.29 gigawatts, missing targets. Planned 76.5 gigawatts onshore by 2025, actual 68.1 gigawatts. Solar stole the show, about 87 terawatt-hours produced, up 21% from 2024, with PV overtaking lignite coal for the first time ever. Installed solar capacity exploded to 116.8 gigawatts by year-end, adding a record 16.2 gigawatts, equivalent to 14.3 gigawatts AC after losses. On peak days, solar and wind dominate, proving rapid deployment is possible when subsidies flow. Overall, renewables hit 58.8% of the power mix in some reports, up slightly from 58.5% in 2024. From 1990, power sector emissions have dropped significantly, driving real climate progress. Environmentalists point to this as a success story. Germany's model shows renewables can replace fossils in electricity generation. But zoom out, electricity is only 20 to 25% of total energy use. Heating, transport, and industry, that's where the trap deepens. The massive price tag, from $500 billion to trillions. Who's paying? Here's the elephant in the room: money. The $500 billion in our title, that's roughly 450 to 500 billion euro in cumulative direct Energiewende costs by the mid-2020s. EEG subsidies, grid expansions, redispatch to balance intermittency, curtailment payments when excess power is wasted, and more. But that's just the appetizer. A bombshell September 2025 study by Frontier Economics for the DIHK, German Chambers of Industry and Commerce, warns that sticking to current policies could cost 4.8 to 5.4 trillion euro between 2025 and 2049 alone. Breakdown: up to 2.3 trillion for energy imports. Renewables can't fully replace fossils yet. 1.2 trillion for grids, 1.1 to 1.5 trillion for new capacity, and 500 billion for operations. Another estimate: to hit 80% renewables in electricity by 2030, add another $737 billion for expansions. Germany's per capita spending on decarbonizing power is tops globally, yet the system's still fragile. Ex-users like John Lee Peterman echo this. No country has invested more in renewable energy than Germany, costing up to $4 trillion by 2050. And Tom de Bosman, Ausgaben für die Energiewende steigen exponentiell. Taxpayers foot the bill via surcharges and taxes, while industry flees. Is this sustainable? Spoiler: no. Sky-high electricity prices, Europe's most expensive power, the human cost. The trap's first victim: your wallet. German household electricity prices in the first half of 2025 averaged 0.3835 euros per kilowatt-hour, Eurostat, the EU's highest, 34% above the 0.2872 euros per kilowatt-hour average. For an average 3,500 kilowatt-hour household, that's 115.6 euros per month BDEW, still above pre-2022 levels, around 0.328 euros per kilowatt-hour in 2021. Taxes, grid fees, 27% of bills, and levies post-EEG surcharge end in 2022 keep it high. Grid fees drop in 2026 with a 6.5 billion euro federal subsidy, cutting transmission from 6.65 cents per kilowatt-hour to 2.86 cents per kilowatt-hour, a 57% reduction, but overall prices remain elevated. Globally, Germany's households pay the fifth highest rates, 38 euro cents per kilowatt-hour at year start 2025. For industry, 2 to 3 times higher than US and China, eroding competitiveness. Energy poverty affects millions, families choosing between heat and food. Ex-post from @StatsFeed highlights the disparity. This isn't abstract, it's real hardship from intermittency and subsidies. Global lessons in 2026: avoid the trap or repeat it. Germany proved renewables can boom, but without reliability, affordability suffers. Lesson: keep nuclear for baseload, plan for intermittency, avoid ideology. Berlin blackout shows Germany's $5 trillion green scheme is a left-green ideological pipe dream. Will the world learn or chase green dreams into economic traps? Fade out with question on screen. Green energy, salvation or trap? Call to action. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts.